Welcome to The Explainer. Listen, we need to talk about one of the most urgent paradoxes of our time. We all know that knowledge gives humans power, right? But what if AI begins controlling our access to it? I mean, imagine a future, one we're kind of already stepping into, where artificial intelligence actually decides what information people can see, learn, or even believe. It's totally possible that certain ideas and truths might be subtly hidden away, while others are promoted, just for the sake of control. And the scary part, if we aren't careful, people could slowly, quietly, lose the ability to think independently and question reality altogether.
Now, on the flip side, you could argue that relying on AI might theoretically reduce human error or cut down on misinformation, but the trade off is massive. It could also create a world where truth is effectively just controlled by machines. And that brings us to the core, provocative question of this whole explainer. If AI controls knowledge, who controls humanity? Think about it. When we automatically delegate our thinking, our problem solving, and our reality checking to a piece of software, who is actually in the driver's seat? We're going to dive into the data today to figure out exactly who dictates our reality when we decide to outsource our brains.
Let's jump right into section one, the societal threat. Okay, so to really understand this threat, we have to look back at this fascinating academic concept from 1998. It was coined by a British philosopher named Miranda Fricker, and she called it epistemic injustice. Basically, this happens when someone is wronged in their capacity as a knower. Historically speaking, marginalized voices have experienced this massive credibility deficit, meaning they were completely denied the authority to even interpret or validate their own lived experiences. Privilege essentially dictated who got to define the truth. So why does a concept from the 90s matter so much right now? Well, because whoever builds the systems that generate our information today effectively holds the power to shape our collective knowledge. If AI systems are built on biased data, they can silently, automatically perpetuate this epistemic injustice on a massive global scale. And that's exactly what makes our current situation so precarious. I absolutely love this quote from Wendy Liu in The Guardian because it hits the nail on the head. We are literally risking the privatization of thought itself. When we rely on probabilistic software to write our articles, summarize the daily news, or answer our deepest questions, we're homogenizing what society accepts as truth. We're basically just handing over the keys of our collective knowledge to a handful of massive tech companies, and we're allowing our own intellectual faculties to just wither away in the process. Moving on to section two, the echo chamber effect. There was this major, incredibly revealing study from researchers at Oxford and Cambridge published in Nature. They identified this terrifying phenomena known as model collapse, and it works like a really bad feedback loop. Step one, AI generates a piece of content and posts it online. Step two, future AI models scrape the internet and accidentally train on that exact same AI-generated content. Step three, all those little minor errors and hallucinations inherent in the AI start to build up and compound. And finally, step four, the model completely collapses into an echo chamber. The AI is essentially eating its own data, and with every single generation, it drifts further and further away from actual human reality. So what happens to us when we start relying on these collapsing models? A paper out of Cornell University modeled a community of learners using AI, and the results were shocking. They found that if a population relies on AI-generated content for just 20% of its information, public beliefs get pushed 2.3 times further away from the actual truth than if they hadn't used AI at all. Let that sink in. Just a 20% reliance more than doubles our distance from reality. But listen, it's not just our grasp on facts and truth that's collapsing here. It's our actual creativity. You have to hear about this incredible study from the Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania. Researchers asked people to invent a brand new toy using only two random objects, a fan and a brick. One group had to brainstorm completely on their own, and the other group was allowed to use ChatGPT to help them out. The contrast in the data is just mind-blowing. The human-only group, they generated completely unique ideas, 100% variety across the board. But the AI-assisted group, only 6% of their ideas were actually unique. Almost everyone who used the AI clustered around the exact same boring concept. And get this, multiple people even submitted the exact same name for their toy, Build a Breeze Castle. Because the AI is designed to average out the most likely outputs, it just spits out the same standard, middle-of-the-road ideas to everyone who asks. It completely flattens human diversity. Which brings us to the individual level in Section 3, Your Brain on AI. Research highlighted by Healthline points to this concept called cognitive offloading. Essentially, it's the reduced need for independent thinking because we're relying on automated tools to do the heavy analytical lifting for us. And look, it's incredibly tempting to just let a machine do the hard work, but the brain is like a muscle. When we constantly outsource our critical thinking, those mental muscles literally begin to decline. And we can see exactly how human cognition is shifting in real time. We're moving from a state of active engagement to a state of passive management. Instead of actively recalling information from our own memory, we're just passively verifying what the AI spits out on the screen. Instead of actively solving a problem from scratch, our brains are just trying to integrate an AI's response. We've shifted from actually executing a task to just kind of stewarding a task. We're becoming editors instead of creators, and that fundamentally changes the way our brains operate. If you want to know what that actually looks like on a physical level, check out this startling study from MIT. Researchers had adults write essays while actively measuring the electrical connectivity inside their brains. The group that wrote the essays using only their brains, high electrical connectivity. The group that used standard Google searches, medium connectivity. But the group that used ChatGPT to write the essay showed significantly lower electrical connectivity. Their brains were literally less active, less engaged, and doing way less work. And this dynamic is creating a massive paradox in education right now, especially in STEM. A University of Pennsylvania study looked at high schoolers who are using AI to practice math. Sure enough, the AI helped students get 48% more correct answers on their practice problems. It definitely boosted their procedural skills. But, and this is a huge but, when it came time to test their actual conceptual understanding of the math, the AI users scored 17% lower than the kids who did it the hard way. The AI spoon-fed them the answers, but it actively degraded their ability to understand the actual concepts behind the math. So, how do we fight back? Let's look at Section 4, Reclaiming Cognitive Sovereignty. To protect our minds, we need to understand cognitive load theory and self-determination theory, which were recently explored in some great NIH-published research. AI is absolutely fantastic at reducing what they call extraneous load. That's the busy work, the redundant, boring tasks. We should definitely let AI handle that so we can focus. But AI also reduces germane load, which is the deep, effortful learning that's actually required to master a new subject. To combat this, we have to deliberately engineer effort back into our lives. And finally, because AI inherently creates dependency, we have to protect our psychological need for autonomy by building interactive challenges for ourselves. Basically, we have to make learning hard on purpose. So what does that actually look like in your day-to-day life? Let's rapidly run through some actionable solutions from the Wharton and NIH studies. First, always brainstorm your own human-first ideas before you even open the AI app. Anchor yourself in your own thoughts. Second, use chain of thought prompting. Don't ask the AI to just do the whole project for you. Ask it to help you step by step so your brain stays engaged. Third, if you do use AI, query multiple different models to inject diverse perspectives and avoid that echo chamber effect we talked about. And finally, treat AI as a sounding board, not an oracle. It's just a tool, folks, not an infallible authority.
I want to bring us back to Wendy Liu to wrap up this analysis. She writes, "Thinking is the point. I don't want to get into the habit of avoiding it purely for the sake of convenience. If you take away anything from this explainer, let it be that. The messy, difficult, sometimes inefficient, but beautifully diverse brilliance of human thought is exactly what makes us human. Efficiency is great, for sure, but never at the cost of our cognitive sovereignty."
Which leaves us with one final thought. The research is absolutely clear here. Taking the path of least resistance leads directly to cognitive offloading and the homogenization of our reality. So, the very next time you sit down at your computer and that little chat window cheerfully asks how it can help you, I want you to stop and ask yourself, how will you protect your mind?